The Rode VideoMic Pro is a fantastic addition to any on-the-go creator kit. Affiliate link in the video description. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is the Mundane Matt channel, and as per every E3, minus last year, because when E3 happened last year, I was in Alaska, I like to do reactions or responses to the press conferences, right? Well, I don't really want to talk about EA as a whole, because outside of A Way Out, and maybe the new BioWare trailer for Anthem, it was nothing to write home about. Mostly dealing with casual fans who like sports games, and that's fine. That's a lot of EA's bread and butter. But what I want to talk about was what I think everyone was waiting for, and EA knew what everyone was waiting for with Star Wars Battlefront 2. And holy shit, they listened to fans. That is apparent from what we saw. Because not only is there going to be a single-player campaign, which we saw the trailer for a few months ago, and it looks good. It looks like it's going to be a different take on telling the story in terms of showing it from a Death Trooper perspective after the events of the Battle of Endor and the destruction of the second Death Star and the fall of the Empire, so on and so forth, or at least the crumbling of the Empire during that time. And I think it's going to be a very interesting storyline, even if I'm not too happy with the fact that Mitch Dyer of IGN co-wrote the screenplay. I don't quite like Mitch too much, so I'm waiting to see what's going to happen with this one. But graphically and speaking and gameplay wise, it looks pretty goddamn fantastic, and there is that fine DICE level of polish on it that does make it look like you are watching a movie versus playing it. Like, the uncanny valley is getting closer and closer, and part of me is happy and part of me is not. But I was a little bit concerned about the multiplayer side of things. Star Wars Battlefront is hit or miss with some people. It's very hit or miss with some people. I myself love it. I love sitting down, playing the game, popping on my headphones, and hearing the score, John Williams music blasting in my ears as I'm just tromping through different maps, killing people, and doing my thing. I enjoy it, even if the game itself had a rocky start. But by the end of, by the first year, they'd done a lot to it, and they had fixed a lot of the issues, a lot of balancing, so on and so forth, and they made the game a lot better. And a year later, you could pick up the Ultimate Edition, which had all the DLC, and it was like $20, and that was a good price for it. So I bought it again. I've been playing it, and it's a great deal of fun. But Battlefront 2, I was really wondering, what are they going to bring to the table? What are they going to bring that's going to really, really, really make it pop and make it stand out? Because Battlefield 1, which came a year later from DICE, was like almost like the antithesis to, or like the anti-Battlefront, as the best way to describe it, because you could feel where DICE took elements from Battlefront in terms of the UI and the design, and then they also applied Battlefield mechanics to that UI and design, and it worked perfectly. Battlefield 1 is amazing. I love that game. And then this feels like they took that element and that design, basically the same setup, and then they just kind of like threw on Star Wars skins and went from there. And when they showed off the battle on Theed between the Separatists and the clones, you could really see how the game had taken a lot from Battlefield 1, what worked very well with it, and they brought it into Star Wars, and it looks like a whole new game. I mean, a whole new fucking game. Now you have classes, which I'm not entirely a giant fan of, only because I'm not a big class-based shooter fan. I like to play games where I have the ability to craft my character myself. I'm not against classes. I understand why they're necessary, but I also feel like you should be able to kind of have like a Build-A-Bear scenario with classes. Like, oh, you can pick from these predetermined classes, or you can build your own and work within your team and not be limited to certain sides of things. And I see why DICE does it the way they do it. And with Battlefield 1, it worked very well. So it could work here. But my God, it looks better. The gameplay looks smoother. The gameplay looks far more fluid. It looks more put together. It looks way more polished. It looks like they learned from their mistakes. And part of me is wondering, what changed? Was it the fact that that fans got really upset, or was it the fact that one fan got really upset? And that would be John Boyega, because Boyega tweeted at EA asking if there was going to be a single-player campaign in Battlefield 2. And when they kind of led into the promo of this event, they had that tweet, and then they had all the other tweets surrounding it, as well as a little introduction from Boyega himself, who's excited to say that Finn will be in the game. It's one of those things where it's like, you have to ask yourself, did Lucas step in and go, listen, one of the stars of the movie that this game is kind of meant to cross promote is right. Like, there are issues here with this. We need to make the next game better. And EA maybe kind of listened to them, and they're going forward. I feel like there was some kind of input from Lucasfilm on this one that made them kind of step up their game. And what's really cool about this too is the whole DLC situation. Like, they're doing away with the season passes, and they're going to have seasons of free content that they're giving out, like new heroes, new things like that, which makes me a little like, I'm happy about that, but I'm a little questioning the situation as a whole, mostly because it's like EA wants to make money. They're in the business of making money. No one's going to suggest otherwise or anything like that. But you have to ask yourself, at what point are they trying to, like, where is the money going to come from post launch? Now, in the game itself, and this is what I think is going to happen, in the game itself, you kind of acquire battle points, and you get battle points through playing the game and completing objectives and kills and things like that. And you can use that to, like, basically purchase, purchase heroes and purchase, I think, like, planes and stuff. And then you can, like, that's how you do the air combat. You have to earn the points and then move around like that. And I'm wondering if they're going to be selling the battle points off like as DLC. If that's where it's going to be their currency, if that's what's going to be their microtransactions. And that wouldn't surprise me, which does kind of feel like that might be a pay-to-play scenario, or at least a pay-to-win scenario. But at the same time, if you have the ability to earn the points yourself, then it's like, okay, you can then grind and do your thing that way. And I have a feeling that's kind of what they're going to do. So that could be good or bad depending on who's paying attention or depending on who's playing the game. But just looking at the core gameplay itself, because that really is what matters here. The different classes, they seem to work. The weapons appear to have more weight. I thought there was a great little thing I saw when one of the guys was playing as a clone trooper, or sorry, as a droid army. And he's running and just the head is bobbling. And like, that was something you saw, like an aesthetic you saw in, in the Phantom Menace, right? And that basically was like, I thought it was a cool little aesthetic that they added in. Whenever they moved over to the air combat, I was sitting there watching it. I'm just like watching the guy, like watching a clone trooper track down a droid trip, and I'm just like, stay on target, stay on target. You know, I'm like yelling at the screen and shit, which got me as a fan super excited. Because I will say though that regardless of the problems that elements of Battlefront had, the extremely limited ship-to-ship combat that they did, or flight, the TIE Fighter versus X-Wing combat worked in the game. It worked. That was the best part. And that they've expanded upon that and added in more of those battles in Battlefront 2, it's gonna do very well for fans who like that. Because one of my favorite moments in Battlefront 1 was I was playing with a friend of mine named Evan, and we were playing in that mode. And I was, he was getting Slave 1, and I was behind him in a TIE Interceptor, and we were just like basically rolling together, and I'm providing cover as he's like taking out ships, and so we were just teaming up together to take out the opposition. But the controls were great, it felt fluid, it worked well, looked beautiful, and we were both saying they need more of that, like they need to bring more of that in, and I feel like here they did. They've really expanded upon a lot of elements of it. One of my concerns though is from like the Walker Assault from the first game, where it's like if you weren't playing as the Empire, the likelihood of you winning was very, very minimal. It didn't feel like there was an even, it didn't feel very balanced. It felt very much against you if you were the Rebel Alliance and not the Empire. And I'm hoping that they balance it out a bit more. Even a year later, the Walker Assault missions still feel very heavily in favor of the Empire. And I understand that's the point, because in that particular scenario they were, but in the game you got to make it as balanced as possible, and I feel like there was a fair amount of that wasn't. So we'll have to wait and see what they do with that. Graphically speaking, yes please. Like I said, we're coming close to Uncanny Valley here. It just looks wonderful. I can't wait to get my hands on it. I can't wait to play it. As just a fan of Star Wars, as a person who who's grown up watching these movies and looking forward to what's coming in the future. I'm very excited to see what they're going to be bringing when the game comes out. And also the heroes, Darth Maul looked amazing. Rey looked amazing. Boba Fett was kicking some serious ass if you know how to play as Boba Fett. And I feel like they basically took Battlefield 1 and they just reskinned it as Star Wars with that deep level of progression and everything else. And I'm hoping more customization. Battlefield 1 doesn't have a lot of customization. I'm hoping more customization. And that also might be part of their whole DLC plan. Is you can purchase skins for your Stormtrooper out. Stuff like that. Who knows? But in the meantime, I'm sold on this game. They've got my $60. Right? You could feel differently, and that's totally fine. But for me, as a Star Wars fan, and a person who really did enjoy Battlefront for what it was, even if flawed, and yes, I'm a big fan of Pandemic's first 2 games, and I've seen the footage for what Battlefront 3 would have looked like, and and I'd love to see that too. But we're never going to get that back. It's never going to happen. Going forward, I think EA has listened. I think that they've learned, and I feel that we're going to get a badass Battlefront 2 game when it comes out this November. And yeah, man, I want more. I would just watch it. I would just watch the game being played. I had so much fun watching those streams, that battle take place, because it was like watching the final 30 minutes of the Phantom Menace, and you could almost feel like someone sat there and they were like, hey, how do we make this game fun? What was the biggest funnest battle in any of the Star Wars movies? And they're like, fucking either Scarif or Naboo. And it's let's just remake that Naboo thing, but granted, we're gonna have clone troopers, which weren't a thing yet, and no Gungans. If they really wanted to make it legit, it would be Gungans and Naboo army, but whatever, I'm not gonna complain. That's splitting hairs. It looks great, it looks fun, and it does feel like Battlefield 1 came to Star Wars, and that is good with me. But what do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments below. My name is, of course, Matt Jarbo. This is the Mundane Matt channel. I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a fantastic day, and fuck it, may the Force be with you.